Max trudged home from school, barely noticing the world around him, cars honking, people passing by, none of it registered. His walk was as dull as his life, a slow march to his quiet, empty house. He knew how the day would go, wasting hours on video games, probably Super Mario, his all-time favorite, with breaks only for basic hygiene and some solitary relief. Usually, a mix of weed or shrooms helped him either speed time up or savor every lazy moment. But today, he had none left. Neither he nor his dealer had any. And even gaming got boring after a while. So, he slumped along, shoulders low, eyes fixed on the ground, feeling the weight of being a lonely, neglected, drug-dependent teen. Suddenly, a voice cut through his gloom. "I think I know something you can do," said an old man standing at an alley entrance, wearing a blue robe and a goofy pointed hat dotted with yellow stars. "What?" Max asked, halting and looking up. The man smiled confidently. "I said I know something you can do to pass the time." Max flushed, a mix of anger and embarrassment. "How do you?" "I'm a wizard." Max frowned, confused. "What?" "Believe it or not, I can offer you a cheap sample of a rare, homemade kind of psilocybin." "What?" The man sighed. "Kids these days get dumber every generation. Simply put, want some shrooms, kid?" Max eyed him suspiciously. "Are you a cop or something? Why does everyone ask me that?" "Whatever. You're weird." "Later, old man." He started to walk away, no longer caring how the man had somehow read his thoughts or knew about his home life or his drug needs, only wanting to get far from this freak. "Wait," the man called, stepping in front of him, hands raised pleadingly. "I'm not a kidnapper, rapist, cop, or anything harmful. Just hear me out. And yes, maybe I'm a wizard." Max narrowed his eyes, wary but curious. The man nodded toward the alley. Max looked down it, thinking, what else do I have to lose? About 20 feet in, Max stopped. "If you're a wizard, why are you selling drugs?" The man chuckled. "Not my first career choice, obviously." Max gave him a blank look. "I used to own a shop downtown," the man said. "What kind?" "A magic shop, of course." Max blinked. "You owned a magic shop?" "Sure. What else would a wizard open?" Max barely held back a laugh. "What was it called?" "Spells Are Us." "Like Toys R Us," the man finished with a grin. "I get that a lot." "Not very original," Max said. "Best I could do," the man shrugged. "I sold potions, spellbooks, magical manga, anime figurines. Even a cosplay costume to a kid your age. And now you sell shrooms too?" The man grinned. "Yes, magic mushrooms, as you'd say." "So what happened to the shop?" "The recession," he said, shaking his head. "Worst time to be a wizard. Too much inventory, nowhere to store it, no place to sell." Max stared, dumbfounded. After a pause, he asked, "So now you sell on the street?" "I gotta make a living somehow," the man said. "People beg on the train all the time. This is my version. Police don't like it, though. I've been stopped several times. Probably because they think you're a drug dealer." "That's a strong word," the man said lightly. "Whatever. So where are the shrooms?" The man's eyes lit up. "You're interested?" He reached into his robe. Max tensed, expecting a weapon. He braced himself for some deadly trick or a wizard's staff, ready to end him. But instead, the man pulled out a clear plastic bag. They were mushrooms. Lots of them. Bright pink mushrooms, no less, definitely not the usual kind. They looked more like candy than some psychedelic drug. "I know what you're thinking," the wizard said, sounding defensive. "Oh yeah," Max replied. "That they're pink. Wow, you're a real mind reader, Mr. Wizard. That's exactly what makes them special. How do I know you're not some lunatic who wandered out of a mental hospital, grabbed random mushrooms from the woods, which could be poisonous, and painted them pink just to trick gullible kids?" "Like I said, Max," the old man said, "you just have to trust me." Max frowned. "How? Did I know your name?" the The man chuckled. The same way I know how bored you are with your life, how you go home and waste your day playing video games, jerking off yourself to sleep, only to do it all again tomorrow. Max froze, horror washing over him. No knife or gun could scare him more. Tell me, the man said seriously, what's your favorite game? Max looked into his deep, knowing eyes and admitted, Super Mario. I see. The man nodded respectfully. Good choice. A classic. He shook the bag of pink mushrooms in front of Max's face like a prize. Max's eyes locked onto it. What if I told you, he said, these mushrooms are so powerful, you'll feel like you're inside the game. Max thought about how something so pretty and harmless looking could be so potent, especially coming from a stranger on the street. You escape through video games, maximum. These mushrooms can break down the walls between this boring world and the one you want to live in, and actually take you there. Max just stared at the bag. To put it simply, the wizard said, everything else you've tried is crap compared to this. He paused. Let me ask you, do you believe in magic? No. You will, once you try these. These mushrooms invented the term magic mushroom. They stood silent for a long moment, the man watching Max watching the bag, the pink mushrooms dangling between them. Max climbed the stairs to his porch, replaying the strange detour of his usual dull walk home. Crazy old man, he muttered as he unlocked the door. What a nut. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him. I'm home, he called out, more to check if anyone was there than to announce himself. No answer. He sighed, locked the door, and headed upstairs to his room, his personal prison. His eyes swept over the messy clothes scattered about, the video game posters on the walls, and the grimy, sweat-stained controller resting on his chair, its cord trailing to the TV. Closing the door behind him, a familiar buzz of excitement began to creep in. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the bag of pink mushrooms. Can't believe I bought this crap, he said, shaking his head. Maybe I'm as crazy as that old guy for even thinking about it. He held the bag up, examining the fungi. The old man's words echoed in his mind, the ultimate video game experience, the key to breaking the physical and spiritual chains locking him here. It sounded wild, intense. His skepticism warned him those words were well practiced. Any dealer, no matter how eccentric, claimed their product was the best and would open your eyes to the universe, especially if they were desperate. What if it's poison? He wondered. He carefully unzipped the bag like opening a bomb threat and sniffed inside. It smelled like mushrooms. He picked one up, inspecting it like a gem. He noticed details he hadn't before. White freckles dotted the mushroom's cap, and the stems were short and stubby, not the long, thin kind he expected. And, of course, they were pink. As he turned it over, two vertical black lines on the stem caught his eye like silly little eyes staring back. He stared. The mushroom stared right back, as if to say, "What, never seen a mushroom before?" He shook his head with a resigned shrug. What the hell, he thought. Worst case, he gets poisoned and calls an ambulance before dying. At least that would be more exciting than doing nothing. That wizard's a real hustler, Max muttered to himself. When Max admitted how broke he was, the wizard nearly exploded with frustration. Why did I have to find the poorest kid on the street? He'd grumbled. Originally, the wizard wanted $100 for the whole eighth, but Max managed to haggle him down to taking all he had, just $10.10. After such a long, theatrical sales pitch, the wizard wasn't about to wait around all day for the next passerby. Lunch money, the wizard muttered, taking Max's cash with a resigned sigh. Even a recession-weary, drug-selling wizard needed every penny. Max shrugged the thought off. He began his pre-shroom ritual, tossing his backpack aside, stretching out his tired back, kicking off his sneakers and jeans, which he flung carelessly into a corner. He slipped into his favorite soft, roomy white sweatpants but left on his green Super Mario t-shirt, the one with the one-up mushroom and Get a Life printed underneath. Settling into his leather throne, controller and remote to the right, pink mysterious mushrooms to the left, Max measured out about 2 grams. He gazed at them, those cute little fungal eyes staring back as if daring him to take the plunge, like swallowing a red pill and leaving reality behind. The mushroom's blank eyes revealed nothing of their destination, yet they beckoned invitingly. Max recalled the wizard's cryptic promise, the ultimate escape. The destruction of the physical and spiritual barrier trapping him in this dull world, and the doorway to the world he longed to reach. He exhaled deeply. "Well, here goes nothing," he said nervously, equal parts anxious and excited. He bit into the pink mushrooms, swallowing their bitter, familiar taste, the magic filling his stomach and slowly spreading through his body. Inside Super Mario 64, Max wandered aimlessly through Princess Rose's castle. Having collected all 120 stars and uncovered every secret real or fake, sometimes he just liked to take a victory lap around his conquered domain, basking in the retro 64-bit charm. He didn't care that it was dated. He enjoyed seeing the castle he'd saved under its ever-clear, sunny sky. Gradually, the familiar, slow wave of psilocybin washed over his senses, electrifying every pore. Even the old 64-bit colors seemed reborn, grainy graphics sharpening into near perfection. The whole game popped out from the TV like a 3D movie. Max shifted in his chair, feeling every hair on his skinny legs brush against the soft sweatpants. "Damn," he murmured, "this stuff is good. Maybe that weird old man wasn't nuts after all." Closing his eyes briefly, he rubbed the back of his head against the chair's leather, which soothed him like a gentle massage. He sighed in relief. He wasn't going to die today. Opening his eyes, he dove back into the game like a deep-sea diver plunging into the ocean. The controllers caught his lifeline. As he roamed the castle and sank deeper under the shroom's spell, his high-fueled mind began to unpack the strange Super Mario universe. A short Italian plumber named Mario stomping on little brown Goombas, jumping on green-shelled Koopa, the minions of Bowser, the supersized Koopa King. Mario traveled from world to world, dodging fire, piranha plants, bullets, and swimming underwater, all to rescue Princess Rose from Bowser, who, despite all the castles Mario invaded, was never actually there. All to save a princess. Princess Rose. Princess Rose Serafina, Max thought with a chuckle. Princess of the Mushroom Kingdom, living in Mushroom Castle, served by mushroom-headed creatures called toads. He laughed aloud at the trippy mushroom obsession in Mario's world, a place already strange, made infinitely stranger by all the fungi. Had Shigeru Miyamoto, the legendary Nintendo designer, dreamed up Mario while on shrooms? Max giggled harder. "I bet he did," he said. Refocusing on the game, he looked out over the castle grounds. Birds chirped soothingly. The pixelated grass pulsed with life. He almost thought he could see individual blades. He imagined a mushroom garden growing all around Mario, which made him laugh even more. After all, both the kingdom and the castle were named Mushroom, and the princess's last name was Serafina. If Miyamoto wasn't a shroomer, Mario definitely was. The guy ate mushrooms that made him grow, shrink, or change in bizarre ways. Still a garden full of shrooms. Max giggled like a kid with candy. "I'd love to visit Mushroom Castle," he sighed. "I bet there'd be tons of shrooms to pick." He pictured himself standing there, plucking mushrooms like flowers and eating every last one. Switching the camera to view the castle on the horizon, Max felt its grandeur. The central spire stabbed into his chest with its reality. The fresco of Princess Rose dazzled like a kaleidoscope, sparkling like a solar eclipse. The window burned her image into his mind and heart, and he couldn't look away. That burning image spread through his body. Every pore tingled with anticipation. Heat and itchiness bloomed over his skin, like an ant under a microscope. His microscope was the castle's window. Princess Rose wouldn't leave his mind. He figured it was just a heightened feeling of excitement, amplified by the trip, a suspicion confirmed by a glance down at his sweatpants. After all, with Super Mario as his all-time favorite game, Rose was naturally his ultimate video game crush, the original princess, the epitome of beauty and grace. Her high-pitched, girly voice, iconic pink dress, big blue eyes, flowing blonde hair, and that perfect golden crown that never slipped, no matter what, had always captivated him. And, of course, he'd often fantasized about the treasures hidden beneath that modest royal gown, like guessing the contents of a wrapped Christmas present. He stared longer at the fresco where Bowser had trapped her, sparking Mario's quest through the castle to rescue her. He felt himself sinking into it like a black hole, as if he, too, was caught in its grasp. His legs tingled with anticipation, he wiggled his toes inside his slippers and shifted in his chair, feeling ready to melt into it. The air around him hummed with electric energy and magic, every atom buzzing with heat and pliability, so intense it felt like time and space themselves were melting. Or maybe transforming. Damn, Max panted, a little alarmed at how high he was getting. The fresco felt like a magnifying glass on an ant, now glaring down on the whole world like the sun itself, its power all-seeing. He sweated as if on ecstasy, nearly feeling the same ecstatic rush. Everything glowed alive and bright. He shifted again, feeling like he sat beneath a hot lamp in an interrogation room. His toes wiggled nervously, it felt like spiders were crawling up his legs. Wow, Max breathed, I'm really tripping. He scratched at his calves through the sweatpants, but the crawling persisted. Then, as he paused, he realized it wasn't spiders. It felt tighter, softer, and silky. Terrified, he reached down and pulled the legs of his sweatpants up to his knees. To his sweaty, horrified surprise, white sheer nylon socks had replaced his old wool ones and they were climbing his legs. Holy shit! Max shouted. He blinked repeatedly, hoping to clear the illusion like an eyelash in his eye, but the white stockings remained, steadily climbing. I must be tripping hard or something, he muttered in panic. The world spun, his body flushed with heat. Yet despite the dizzying sensations, the growing stockings felt terrifyingly real. He cupped his hands around the stockings near his knees, as if to catch them, but they slipped through like water and continued climbing, disappearing under the raised pant legs. Shit, he yelled, springing to his feet. The air felt thick, humid, and hot like a sauna charged with strange energy. He yanked his sweatpants waistband down to his knees and helplessly watched the stockings climb higher, creeping up his thin thighs toward his tight white briefs. Seeing them reach his thighs, Max realized these weren't ordinary white socks. They were stockings. He screamed again, but then watched helplessly as they slid beneath and inside his brief's leg holes, wrapping around his hips and crawling up his skinny, bony backside. The climb ended when the stockings peeked over his waistband, their delicate white lace bands blooming with floral embroidery. He was wearing sheer white pantyhose. Oh my God, he gasped. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed his bed shifting. Pink blotches spread across the sheets like spilled paint. His dull pillows softened and turned pink, edged with frilly white lace. The sheets shimmered silky in the dim light of his dingy room. A sudden tightness in his briefs pulled his gaze back down. His plain white briefs had turned soft pink, the waistband trimmed with matching frilly lace. The seat hugged his flat, flabby butt cheeks in an uncomfortably girly way, transforming into pink, frilly knickers. His horror-stricken, now flaccid male organ tented the inner thighs of the feminine underwear. He could only stare in silent terror at his nearly fully cross-dressed lower half, his skinny, hairy legs encased in sheer white nylon pantyhose rising to pink knickers clinging to his hips and ass. His cold, clammy hands trembled as they traced the nylon-covered legs and snapped the knickers' waistband. As much as he wanted to blame the trip, denying the reality became impossible. This felt far too real. He reached for the waistband of the knickers and pantyhose, ready to yank them down in disgust, only to find the knickers' waistband had fused with the bottom of his shirt, forming a makeshift romper that trapped the pantyhose's waistband beneath it. The pink tightness of the knickers spread upward, overtaking his green t-shirt as the top half of the romper shrank and clung to his slender, boyish frame. His cold, clammy hands clawed at the clingy garment, but he could barely stretch it before it snapped back stubbornly. Oh God, Max whimpered, desperate to understand and stop what was happening. To hide the romper's frilly bottom and his nylon-covered legs, he yanked his sweatpants up from his trembling thighs to his waist, hoping to throw on a sweatshirt and rush to find scissors or a knife to cut himself free from this pink cocoon of femininity. But as he pulled up his pants, he gave himself a brutal wedgie that shoved his private organs up into his scrotum, the sudden sharp pain making him arch his back and squeal in a high-pitched, "Oh." He froze, terrified. Had his balls really just retracted like that? It felt impossible, and what was that soft, high sound coming from his own mouth? "Rosie," he asked aloud, as if some unseen force controlling his twisted trip could hear him. The pitch of his voice answered, it was definitely higher now. Just a bit more, and it would sound like. New sensations from below and a fresh pulse of energy in the room broke his thoughts. Whatever was happening to him and to reality was accelerating. He glanced toward his dresser, or what used to be his dresser, and saw it transformed into a grand white bureau, large enough to hold all the cosmetics and clothes a prissy princess might need. A huge mirror framed by elegant arches stood ready for the princess to primp, but for now, it was there for Max to witness his own changing, emasculated, increasingly delicate form. The reflection showed a pretty, blushing boy holding up the waistband of pink sweatpants riding high on his hips, revealing white nylon calves and pink marabou slippers on his sheathed feet. His pink romper clung tightly to his slender upper body. Wait, when had his sweatpants and slippers turned pink? And where had that fluffy, fruity fur on his slippers come from? "I look like a damn drag queen," he cried miserably, fully cross-dressed. Still clutching his wedgie, he felt his sweatpants bunch deeper between his growing butt cheeks as they swelled suddenly. The romper's frilly bottom stretched beneath his sweats, struggling to contain his expanding curves. "Oh God," he squealed, stabbing one hand down the back of his pants while holding them up with the other. "Am I ass? What's happening?" Before he could finish, his hips cracked and widened, as if the private organs buried deep inside his groin, now silently functioning as ovaries, were pushing outward to reshape his pelvis. He arched his back, watching his butt swell prominently, poking out from his distorting wedgie like a pink, ballooning bubble. His nylon-clad legs locked tight, thighs and calves twitching as soft, feminine fat gathered beneath the sweatpants, creating an involuntary, sexy, butt-jutting stance. Judging by his calves, he imagined his legs were now those of a stunning model beneath those pink sweats. Finally, he released the sweatpants waistband, letting them snap snugly around his new, curvy hips, thick thighs, and full butt so unlike his formerly loose grey sweats on his skinny frame. He now looked like he was wearing those pink Victoria's Secret sweats with pink printed on the rear, except the fit was terrifyingly perfect. On his pink, furry slippers and nylon-covered feet, he pivoted his wide hips toward the mirror. His swollen butt swung heavily like a planet in orbit, forming a perfectly plump, bulbous bubble not with the word pink, but with peach stamped across it like a billboard. His thighs were thick and his legs long, almost stilt-like. "Oh my God," he gasped, voice girlish and worried, fussing over his enlarged backside. But seeing that name, no, that title, Peach emblazoned there, he realized, he was becoming. His male organ throbbed violently beneath his tight sweats, and he instinctively buried his hands in his pockets, stretching the taut fabric across his swelling ass. When he felt a sharp tingling, he jerked his hands back as if caught in traps only to find them emerged slender and delicate, now covered in white satin gloves matching his pantyhose. Like the stockings climbing his legs, the gloves extended up his fragile arms. Gripping his arms at various points, he tried to stop the gloves from climbing further, but they kept rising, ending only at the short sleeves of his romper. He raised his beautiful, gloved hands in front of his horrified face, wiggling their delicate, feminine fingernails he somehow knew were glossy and pink beneath the satin gloves. These were the kind of hands princesses offer for knights to kiss, the kind he secretly wished would wrap around him, their smooth white satin stroking him softly, perhaps followed by Rose's soft, plump pink lips. So pristine and shiny, he feared touching them might dirty their perfection. He held his arms out, every tiny movement dripping with feminine grace. Even when he gave up and let them fall limply by his sides, they hung with a girlish, limp-wristed flair, flamboyant yet elegantly refined. His gloved hand reached down and squeezed his plump, peachy rump, peach stamped across it like a Spalding logo on a basketball. Once again, he realized, he was becoming Rose, he squeaked in Princess Rose's unmistakably high-pitched, sultry voice. His small, gloved hand hovered before the luscious pink lips he now owned, from which that velvety voice poured out. His wide eyes grew wider, lashes fluttering longer and thicker, while his other hand weakly grasped his slender neck, now smooth and missing its Adam's apple, looking every bit like a sass-talking princess who just dropped a curse word. His voice was high, like helium had filled his lungs, soft and sweet as candy, an operatic soprano of pure femininity. He'd always been amused by Rose's cartoonishly squeaky voice, but hearing it from his own mouth terrified him. "Oh no," he cried in melodramatic distress. Saying Rose seemed to unlock some magic, accelerating the changes in him and his surroundings. The room expanded, walls stretching outward opposite of a classic trap room closing in. In the mirror, his tiny, creaky bed transformed into a luxurious pink queen-sized island of silk and satin, unfit for a boy like him. The mess, dirty clothes, socks, laundry vanished, revealing a clean hardwood floor beneath fresh white walls, the new bureau, and window. The short pink sleeves of his romper, once baggy white t-shirt sleeves, hugged his now petite, feminine shoulders and ballooned like plump pumpkins, dwarfing his slender arms. His collar closed in tightly around his neck, forming a distinctly feminine neckline. He glanced back at his frightened reflection to see his lips pulse pinker and fuller, puckering as if awaiting a prince's kiss. His luscious mouth gaped silently at the transformation, eyes wide with horror as his lashes thickened and curled girlishly, his iris color shifting from dull brown to bright ocean blue. He slapped his gloved hands to his rosy, rouged cheeks, shoulders rising in gentle shudders, wrists bending delicately, trying to confirm the adorably doll-like face was truly his. He blinked repeatedly, just as he had when the stockings climbed his legs, yet his lush lashes fluttered beautifully. "Holy smokes," he exclaimed cutely, then frowned at the outdated exclamation. "Wait. Why can't I curse? Gosh darn it. Frustrated by his new inability to swear, sounding more like a perfect, polite princess than ever, he cooed awkwardly as his tight pink sweatpants suddenly rode up, revealing his legs in all their shiny white nylon glory. The sweats stopped mid-thigh, transforming into hot pink shorts, peach still boldly emblazoned across his perfectly round bubble butt. He slapped his hands on his hips, amazed at how lovely his legs looked, his dainty feet still tucked in pink marabou slippers. Before he could fully process, a sudden burning sensation rained down on his hair, as if the world's most acidic shampoo had poured over him. Throwing his head back, his big blue eyes shut, lips parted in a squeaky O, his gloved fingers scrambled at his scalp as if trying to fend off a swarm of lice. But as he scratched, his hair lengthened and lightened from dull, dandruffy brown to glorious sunlit gold. It filled his hands, golden strands billowing like a storm cloud of silk, bursting through his fingers like blossoming flaxen vines. He moaned softly like a woman in a shampoo commercial, alternating between pretty, high-pitched no-s and squeaky stop-s as every follicle pulsed with life. Tossing his head in denial, loose strands brushed his rouged cheeks and nape, bangs sweeping his forehead like silk curtains. Finally, the golden cloud grew too heavy, and his hands released it. The cascading locks tumbled down his neck and back like a radiant golden cape, flowing all the way down to his pink, peachy bubble butt. He finally opened his eyes and, despite his dread, faced his stunning reflection in the mirror, his neck adjusting to the new weight atop his head. Good God, he was gorgeous. A perfect mirror of Princess Rose herself, big blue eyes framed by lush lashes, pink, plump lips eager for a prince's kiss, or maybe a short Italian plumber's, and a long, silky manet of wavy blonde hair that looked like he'd spent all day admiring it in a mirror with shallow, girlish indulgence. Even her earrings adorned him, large sapphire pearls dangling from freshly pierced lobes, perfectly matching his bright, expressive eyes. The loss of his own face, replaced by Rose's, was almost too much. In his pink marabou slippers, he tried to run, though where, he didn't know anywhere but facing the mirror. But his plump upper thighs snagged on some stretchy, rubbery fabric. Looking down, he saw his hot pants had fused together into a micro-miniskirt, its waistband merged with the romper's waist, forming a mini-dress with attached pink panties beneath. The waist cinched tight, compressing him into the wasp-thin proportions of a constantly corseted princess, emphasizing his wide hips and full rump. He slapped his hands on his narrow waist, tracing the exaggerated curve that flared out to his comparatively huge hips. He felt dizzy and weak, breathing shallow and fast through his plump lips like a tight-laced damsel gasping for air. His waist no more than 20 inches, his hips over 36. Then the skirt frilled outward, a short vermilion peplum blooming atop it. Below, a deeper pink petticoat unfurled, peeking out several inches, flaring his mini-dress into a tutu-like plume. It dawned on him. Princess Rose's famous dress was materializing. The petticoats and skirt cascaded down his long, white nylon-clad legs like a closing curtain, the end of a play, the end of his boyhood. The fluffy layers brushed his silky legs like feathers. Desperately, his gloved hands grasped the gathering satin, as if he could stop the descent. But it only grew heavier, bunching into thick clusters. He held the skirt up in terrified defiance, flashing pink frilly panties and full pantyhosed legs in a most unladylike fashion, yet refusing to care. A sharp pang from his corseted waist forced him to release the skirt, which fell in a lavish cascade, flaring like petals of a blooming pink flower, pooling at his feet. His wasp waist flared the skirt like a tulip's bell from a tiny stem. His eyes darted around its wide, bell-shaped expanse, hair brushing his puffy shoulders as he whimpered, "Oh God, her dress. I'm wearing her dress." Horrified and humiliated in the quintessential princess gown, he had no idea how he'd even walk with such a long, flared skirt engulfing his soft, pantyhosed legs. As if mocking him further, his stance shifted suddenly, his heels popped several inches off the floor, his ample butt jutting dramatically behind him. His rounded rump formed a luscious curve beneath the skirt's fabric, pushing his still flat chest forward. Glancing down, the skirt hid his feet, so he lifted it like a veil to reveal a pair of petite, pantyhosed feet nestled in pink pumps with 4-inch heels. How was he supposed to walk in those? The yellowed walls of his room brightened and straightened, whitening with newfound elegance. His window stretched taller, morphing into a cathedral-like arch, the kind where princesses sit and let their hair cascade, calling for nights, flooding light over his transforming figure like a spotlight on the linoleum beneath his high-heeled feet. Then, beneath the layers of fluffy petticoats, he felt his long-forgotten male organ pulse and begin to shrink. "No," he squeaked in his high-pitched rose voice. "Not that. Please." His gloved hands darted beneath the skirt, scrambling through the satin and lace to grasp his disappearing member. But the pressure overwhelmed him, lips parting in a cute coo as his pantyhosed legs trembled, a little girl desperate for the bathroom. Deep inside the frilly prison, his male organ was pulled into his scrotum, joining his balls, leaving behind a sensitive crater-like hollow. 2 firm pops echoed at his widened hips unbeknownst to him, his new reproductive organs connecting internally. Finally able to move again, he lifted his skirt and petticoats fully, revealing a perfect, flat Princess Rose panty shot, her pink Bermuda triangle of royal treasure beneath the lavish skirt. He dropped the skirt, nearly in tears, but before he could process, a sapphire blue brooch bloomed on his plain pink torso, matching his earrings and eyes. The brooch pulsed with power, making his chest tingle and peak beneath the pink satin bodice. He cooed, throwing his shoulders back as the bodice tickled his excited pointers. Surrendering to the magic, he arched his back, feeling his bust swell, stretching the fabric. "Oh gosh," he squealed, eyes wide at his ballooning chests beneath the glowing brooch. "No, not." He clapped gloved hands over the swelling curves, but they overflowed his palms. The weight anchored his spine, forcing a permanently prim posture. The brooch protruded from his ample chest like a brilliant spotlight. He took a quick, sweeping look around his transformed room, utterly alien to him. The dark, cluttered dungeon where he'd wasted countless days gaming and tripping had become a rich princess's chamber. Posh, luxurious, with a towering cathedral window, plush upholstery, a grand ornate bureau, and gleaming linoleum floors. Most unsettling of all, when he glanced in the mirror, he didn't look out of place. He looked like he belonged. Like this was truly his room. Panic rising, he tried to flee, though from what, he wasn't sure. His petite feet, encased in 4-inch pink pumps, barely managed 2 steps before he tripped on the voluminous fabric of his princess skirt. He fell forward, his girlish, gloved hands stretching out to break his fall as he let out a helpless squeak like a clumsy, adorable princess. Angrily gathering the plume of fabric in his hands, he rose and held the front of his skirt with limp, graceful wrists, then scampered down a vast, unfamiliar castle hallway. The hallway shared the same pristine linoleum floor and was adorned with portraits of the very woman he had just seen in the mirror, the woman he was becoming, Princess Rose. His 4-inch heels clicked loudly, echoing through the vast, hollow corridors. The endless rustle of his frilly skirt swirled around his stockinged legs, scraping at his male mind like nails on a chalkboard, just like the jingling of his jewelry and the way his sapphire earrings bounced at his pretty face like delicate ornaments in the breeze. His golden hair flared behind him like a silky sail. He hated it all, yet all he could do was run. After what felt like an eternity, his aching feet protesting in the unforgiving heels, he reached a pair of large double doors. His small hands and weak arms struggled to push them open. After several tries, the doors creaked ominously, revealing a vast throne room. A red carpet unfurled beneath his high-heeled feet, stretching out before him to a golden throne adorned with plush red velvet cushions, beckoning his royal rump to rest. On the throne's right arm rested the final piece, Princess Rose's crown. Suddenly, he found himself standing before the throne again, the carpet stretching endlessly toward the entrance. His head snapped wildly, disoriented and confused at how he'd arrived. Then, an unseen force pushed him backward, and his plump rump settled prettily onto the soft cushion. His gloved hands fluttered in front of him before settling firmly on the armrests. He tried to rise, but found himself locked fast, legs and arms immobile, neck unable to turn. The throne seemed alive, breathing power into him. Then, the crown shot upward and descended slowly, ominously, like a collapsing ceiling, settling atop his pretty little head. His wide blue eyes looked up in fear but saw nothing but the glowing crown. He was stuck, his royal rump glued to the throne, gloved hands fixed on the arms, high-heeled feet planted firmly on the floor as some mysterious force crowned him princess. The moment the crown touched his scalp, a surge of fire and electricity exploded through his body. He shook his head wildly, trying to dislodge it, his luxurious golden hair whipping about. But the crown held firm, gleaming magnificently in the castle's luminous light. Its sapphires and rubies pulsed with radiant magic, as if his very soul blazed within them. Every jewel on the crown, brooch, and earrings lit up like Christmas lights. His back arched like a drawn bow, his new bust thrust forward, and he screamed an operatic soprano at its peak. His blue eyes bulged with terror as a flood of memories washed over him. Birthdays, music lessons, blueprints of this vast castle, his castle, all the duties and luxuries of a princess's life, so unlike his former world of gaming, procrastination, and solitude. Deep beneath his skirt, between stockinged legs and pink ruffled knickers, he felt his new female organ pulse and moisten, soiling his panties sinfully. He threw his head back, feeling the heavy, steady weight of the crown and the rush of royal power coursing through his veins, the weight and destiny of the entire Mushroom Kingdom. His golden hair flowed behind him, nearly brushing the throne's cushion. Then, without warning, the jewels on his crown, brooch, and earrings burst into a dazzling blaze of light so intense it blinded him before everything plunged into sudden darkness, as if all the lights had been snapped off. And with that, the cursed coronation was complete. He had become Princess Rose Seraphina of the Mushroom Kingdom. If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, don't forget to join me on Patreon for exclusive content.